Hi Soul Family, and welcome to the final Mercury retrograde of 2024. Before I jump into this video, because I know so many people worry about Mercury retrograde, I just want to remind everyone that you can find the you can find the timestamps in the description box below this video, where you'll be able to skip to your signs, I should say, because you can listen to your ascendant or your rising sign. That's the same thing for those that don't know. And then after that, you can listen to your sun and your moon. A lot of people who are new to astrology and don't know their rising or ascendant sign get a bit lazy and just think they can listen to their sun sign, and then they'll say, oh, it sounds inaccurate. Whereas what is most likely to be the most accurate when you do a general reading like this is your rising sign, your ascendant, and you can calculate that online for free. So listen to that first, and then go ahead and listen to your sun sign and your moon sign to get an overall holistic view. And you may resonate with all three, you may just resonate with one. A lot of that will depend on your chart. And again, none of this is as accurate as a one-on-one personal reading would be with a professional astrologer like me or someone else. I am taking readings. If you'd like to schedule, you're welcome to. And without further ado, let's jump into this video. Okay, so I know that in the mainstream astrology world, social media, conversations, that a lot of people are kind of scared of Mercury retrograde. The thing is, a lot of planets, all planets and even asteroids retrograde. And Mercury, especially because Mercury is one of the closer planets, so it's one of the faster moving ones. So it retrogrades on average 3 to 4 times a year. So Mercury is retrograding, you could say pretty decently. This year's retrograde is occurring from November 25th to December 15th, with its shadow period starting on November 7th. So we're already in its shadow period. We've been in it for a while. And if you're unfamiliar, the shadow period, or otherwise known as the pre-shadow, is when the planet starts to slow down as it prepares to enter retrograde. And then when it's in retrograde, it appears visually to retrace its path in the sky, meaning that it appears to move backwards. And we also have a shadow period after retrograde ends. This tends to last around 2 weeks, just like the pre-period. And both the prelude and the aftermath of the retrograde energy are still time to pay extra attention to the themes that we're about to discuss, which will be the themes that are very active during retrograde. Each retrograde is still very different, even though Mercury is retrograding multiple times a year. It depends on what else Mercury is aspecting at the time, where the retrograde is happening, etc. The shadow period before, you may see some of the relevant themes start to pop up in your life in a very more kind of mild way, but here the energy is kind of building up. So it's like a little mini retrograde during the shadow period. Honestly, some people might not even feel it at all. But if the retrograde is going to hit your chart very strongly, not every retrograde will hit your chart the same, then you likely may feel an energetic buildup before the big bam happens. And I did mean bam, not bang. So want to say that there is really no reason to fear a retrograde. Yes, Mercury retrogrades tend to be a time where you might have technology mishaps, or travel mishaps, or communication mishaps, or as I like to say, retrogrades can be the time of the return of the exes, when exes rise from their graves and come to haunt you. Just kidding. Well, I'm being exaggerative. But it's still not something so big. It's not like, oh my God, I can't do this because it's retrograde. Like I said, different retrogrades will hit you harder. And all we have to do is just be aware of what it means energetically, and flowing with that energy. And like everything that happens astrologically, things happen to push us or nudge us in a certain way, or to bring things to our attention, or to be lessons. So it's a good way to think of it this way, and just keep in mind, what I'll tell you in this video, so you can prepare. And we'll talk about that, how to prepare for a retrograde. But basically, I want to say retrogrades happen multiple times a year. So it's not like, oh God, it's a retrograde. I'm not going to reach out to them. I'm not going to submit my project. I'm not going to ask for a raise. It's nothing like that. But understanding the retrograde energy for each specific retrograde and in your chart will help you better prepare. Overall, I will say though, for retrogrades, for example, if you are traveling, just be a little bit cautious. Like, try and be a little bit early going to the airport or something. Try and prepare for the event in case your suitcase gets lost. But don't completely stop traveling, or don't delay your flight just because you don't want to fly during retrograde. So you see what I mean here? It's a bit of you can prepare and be aware, but you don't have to be scared. Astrology is really meant to empower and to provide information, to give more power to the self, to the individual, not to cause fear or not to cause any form of restriction. Now, this particular Mercury retrograde is happening in the sign of Sagittarius, which is a sign that represents higher learning, exploration, travel, truth-seeking, adventuring. Sagittarius is the archer. Sagittarius is also the adventurer. Sagittarius, side note, is also my north node, which is why I am partially nomadic all the time for the rest of my life, I think. Anyway, but Sagittarius is also ruled by Jupiter, which will be transiting Gemini. And it's interesting here because Jupiter, Sagittarius's ruler, will actually be in the opposing sign and will be opposing Mercury at the exact time of retrograde. This is adding a very unique energy to this retrograde that I will explain later. But having having Sag's ruler in Jupiter, having Sag's ruler Jupiter in Gemini is really amplifying the energy of communication, intellectual pursuits, and duality. Gemini also talks about, both Sag and Gemini also talk about things like writing, learning, etc. Publishing even to a certain extent. On the same day that the retrograde begins, Atira, which is an asteroid associated with purpose, destiny, and the journey of self-discovery, is in exact conjunction with Juno, the asteroid of marriage, life partners, and commitment, and the asteroid that I introduced you to in the last video. So if you go back, and I really recommend watching my last video about Juno ingressing into Scorpio, which means moving into Scorpio, that will play a part likely with this retrograde as well. Retrograde may also play a part with Juno, vice versa, because Juno is making important transits in this time. This alignment adds transformative energy to the retrograde, particularly in relationships and personal destiny. This is giving a very destiny written in the stars, soulmates, take the chance now energy to Juno's transit throughout Scorpio around the time the retrograde begins. So this is making me think that collectively this is likely a time when you're gonna Mercury, we're gonna have updates and changes and aha moments when it comes to soulmate, destiny type of love. Oh, that's so exciting, isn't it? And it's because Mercury, I can't remember if I said this earlier, but Mercury is the planet that rules communication. Mercury, to a certain extent, also rules technology. And when you combine those two together, you get social media. Mercury also rules intellectualization, like how we intellectualize. How we communicate, actual communication too, both as a noun and as a verb as well. So it's receiving communication, it's communication styles, it's all of these things. It's learning, it's speaking, it's writing. You get the idea. And so that's the reason as well that Mercury retrograde is infamous for technology glitches, travel delays, and miscommunications because of those things that it rules. So when we have a retrograde, like if you go back and watch my Saturn direct video, when Saturn stopped its retrograde, I explain the energy there. But when we have a retrograde for each individual planet or asteroid, whatever that planet or asteroid rules kind of takes a step back. So in this case, yes, there is likely going to be technology glitches, travel delays, and miscommunications, like I said at the beginning, but it's still nothing to act like, oh my God, the world is ending because Mercury is in retrograde. And while this could be true that it's more likely to happen, this is just a surface level of understanding of what the overall scope of Mercury retrograde can be. So later I'm going to go sign by sign and talk exactly where it would be hitting in your chart. Remember, this is a general reading, so even though we are going sign by sign and it's more personal than the collective, but it's still not the same as one-on-one reading. But let's talk about collectively, what does Mercury retrograde mean? So we talked about possible communication issues to be aware of. So if you're trying to reconcile with an ex, or if you're working through a hard time with your partner or your parents or your boss, just be aware that misunderstandings can happen more often in Mercury retrograde. It's also possible to have forgotten appointments more often, misleading information. So how to prepare: be clear, concise, double check all communication, and be a little bit more patient. When it comes to travel plans, yes, theoretically, delays are more likely, canceled flights, lost luggage, confusion around itineraries, all of these things are more likely. So just review plans carefully and plan for a little bit more of wiggle room, and be more aware of plan B or backup plans or things like that. For technology, yes, it is more common for things like glitches in apps, glitches in internet connection, slowdowns, issues with emails, data loss, broken devices. I remember when I ran back on my Instagram, I used to run weekly lives and weekly kind of collaborative interviews when I used to be on it more. And there was one day on the first day of a Mercury retrograde, I hadn't been paying attention when Mercury retrograde was, and in the middle of the live it just crashed and we were having troubles reconnecting, and I remember saying, is Mercury in retrograde, and did I just not realize? And it turned out to be the first day. So I mean, and we still went on, it worked, but yes, there were more glitches. So that's what I mean by just prepare and be aware. But it's it will last like a few weeks, so it's not, if it's something very urgent that you can't postpone, you don't have to do that. Just be aware. If you are signing contracts or agreements in this time, they say, some astrologers, I don't like the fear, but some will say avoid doing it unless it's absolutely necessary in this time. I would just say rethink and review, and don't let yourself be rushed, and really read the fine print. And, retrogrades are really a time to reflect and revisit. And with this Sag energy, this could mean reevaluating personal belief, life goals, or educational pursuits, or spiritual beliefs, because those are also the things that Sagittarius rules when we're talking collectively and generally. This is also a time for truth and clarity, because Sagittarius thrives on truth. So this particular retrograde, expect maybe hidden truths to emerge, or old misconceptions to resurface, or someone to emerge maybe with truth or wanting clarity or giving you clarity. So if you ended it with someone and you never got closure, or they were not clear, or someone still has feelings, or there is some kind of misconception, one of you may feel driven to fix it and right it in this time. In terms of relationships, misaligned expectations or the need to revisit and rework old issues in personal or professional connections may arise. And of course, we talked about that Mercury retrograde can be a season where the exes return. Again, how strong that is really dependent on your charts. For example, on my chart, with where Mercury is hitting and Mercury in general, of the role Mercury plays in my chart, that is a very common theme. Many astrologers claim to have coined return of the exes for Mercury retrograde. Many astrologers do. I'm not claiming that. I definitely did not coin it, but I do think it is true. I have seen it very often. Some, again, not all retrogrades are the same, but if it's going to happen, it's likely to happen in one of the retrogrades in year, depending on where it hits in your chart. So be aware of that. And it doesn't mean that just because an ex is coming back in Mercury retrograde that you're like, F you, I don't want to get back with you, blah, blah, blah. Like, it doesn't mean that the exes that step forward in this time are not bringing something valid to the table. It just means because Mercury intellectualizes, and Mercury is about communication, and retrograde is about looking backwards and revisiting. That's why that if there are still feelings there, people are more likely to reach out in this time. You also might be the ex that reaches out during a retrograde. And so just like with all things during a Mercury retrograde, just take time to think about it, try and stay grounded, and be aware too. This could be a time too where you or them, someone might be having thoughts of an ex suddenly reemerge and be wondering if they should act on it or not. Now, I'm not saying don't, because like I said, divine things happen for a reason. So if you're getting thoughts, it could be for a reason. But it's up to you to decide if that reason is to reach out for a conclusion and then move on, reach out to rekindle, or just if those thoughts are coming up for you to revisit and heal yourself without even reaching out. There's no right or wrong answer. Each case is different. Just don't label it whatever it is. Don't label it, each case is different. So sit with your intuition, sit with that guidance. And in the end, if you do decide to reach out to an ex, or if an ex reaches out to you, just stay grounded and just trust that everything that's meant to be will happen. And sometimes we have to risk vulnerability in order to receive good things in life, one way or the other. Okay, let's talk about what else is unique about this retrograde, but specifically what else is happening around that time frame and also the other aspects. So, Jupiter's role, I talked a little bit about this, but let me say what it means. Jupiter's role as the ruler of Sagittarius, aka the ruler of this Mercury retrograde. Jupiter is in Gemini, but it is directly opposing Mercury, meaning it's sitting at 180-degree opposition during the retrograde. Oppositions create tension. So this is creating tension between thought, which is Mercury, and communication, and expansion, which is Jupiter. So possible way that this energy could look like is overwhelming or conflicting ideas, opportunities appearing that seem too good to be true, exaggeration in communication, possible exaggeration of miscommunications. How it specifically will be in your chart, this tension opposing energy, will depend on where both of those planets are. So I'll get into that. But just be aware of that this opposition is adding a little layer of tension to this retrograde. And that opposition is coming with Mercury, which represents thoughts, communication, opposing, so creating some conflict, some obstacles with Jupiter, which is expansion, higher learning, luck, growth, and to a certain extent also wealth and money, not to scare you. Okay, we also have Mercury in a T-square with Saturn and Neptune. I have a whole video on Saturn you can go watch. But during this retrograde, Mercury is squaring both Saturn, and Saturn represents structure, restriction, responsibility, commitment, authority, etc. And Neptune is illusion, it's dreams, it's also disillusionment, it's also idealism. And some even say Neptune is like the higher vibration of Venus. So these are very contrasting energies, and a T-square is when you have planets squaring both. And square is similar to an opposition in the sense that it is a friction-based aspect, but squares and oppositions often happen to induce growth. So all of these are bringing growth. These contrasting energies create scenarios that could look like illusions or fantasies being shattered for you by hard truths. This could also be collective. So this is a collective part that I'm reading to. So I'm saying talking to you, but this could be happening maybe with people around you. Maybe as a society, we're seeing illusions or fantasies shattered by hard truths. This could also look like old patterns of avoidance or procrastination being highlighted for you to fix, fix it. This could look like struggles with balancing creative inspiration and practical action. We also have Mercury trining Chiron and trining Fortuna. Chiron is known as the wounded healer, and Chiron in someone's birth chart will tell me what their big wound and their big trauma is. It is crazy what I can see looking at the aspects to Chiron, the rulers, the house, the sign, etc. And so here we have Mercury trining Chiron. So this is for the collective. And a trine is a harmonious aspect. So this is actually kind of a good thing. It's a healing energy. And Mercury is also trining Fortuna, the asteroid of luck and destiny. Now, not a lot of people talk about asteroids or Arabic points or other kind of angles or lesser known elements than the planets in the sky, but the type of astrology I do, which is heavily based off ancient astrology from the Eastern Mediterranean, really looks and uses asteroids. So Fortuna is the asteroid of luck and destiny, and this trine that Mercury is having with both Chiron and Fortuna adds a healing and fated element to this retrograde. So expect opportunities, or even some of those Mercurian mishaps. Expect those to somehow heal old wounds, particularly around communication or self-expression. Expect sudden fated encounters or opportunities that feel aligned with your path and push you towards luck and destiny. Expect maybe things that are disguised as mishaps, or, oh my God, retrograde is doing this, to lead to something good and actually be luck in your favor. We also have, like I mentioned earlier, Atira and Juno in exact conjunction the day Mercury goes retrograde. Guys, I'm excited about this one because before anything, my heart and soul is the soul of a lover and a little Disney girl that still believes in, that fairy tale type of true love, and for everyone, for the collective. And I think one of my purposes is to, play a part somehow in spreading love and bringing lovers together in the collective. Okay, anyway, so Atira and Juno are both two asteroids. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a whole video on Juno. Go listen to it. But this conjunction is amplifying themes of destiny, purpose, and partnerships. So I predict for the collective overall, sudden clarity about what you want in a life partner, destined relationships forming, or past life connections re-emerging. I predict partnerships shifting to align with a greater purpose, or falling away if they no longer serve your growth. I predict if your partner was someone, or the person you're meant to be with was someone that was from the past, like an ex, or that you had a false start. A false start is when you're meant to be together, but it started false, and then you guys were in separation or something. I predict sudden clarity coming from one of you or both of you about realizing who the person is, or what they really want, or how someone's messed up, or what they're willing to give up, or this kind of stuff, and coming together. And if you're the one wondering this, I will pay attention to if this person feels like you've known them in a past life. If you believe in that, of course, you've met them before, you've known them for a long time. If your soul, your body, when you are in a healed state, right? Because we can be so disconnected from how we feel. If we're in stress, if we're in chaos about something else, then we can project that onto our partner. But if they feel like home, like safety, if you feel more understood with them and they feel more understood with you, given that disclaimer, and you're feeling like they're popping in your mind, or the universe is aligning in weird ways where they've popped up in your life again, yeah, the Atira-Juno alignment, this conjunction, is really talking about, hey, there's something happening here that's to do with destiny and purpose, to do with a life partner in marriage. So just be aware of that. So if you're having downloads are kind of, intuitive thoughts coming almost seemingly not from you, from source, aka universe, aka God. That's how I like to think of it. If you're having downloads around the time of this Atira-Juno conjunction, pay attention to that. If it's about someone, truly pay attention to that. Whether you're the runner or what do they call the other person that's not the runner? Whatever. Whether you're the runner or the person that didn't run away, pay attention to those thoughts, because this conjunction is a very special one. All right. So those were things to watch out for and how to prepare, but let me give you some more specific scenarios to watch out for during this retrograde of how this energy could play out. I mean, I've talked you through the mixture of all of these energies. It's a mixture. And again, reminder, this is a general reading, and there are infinite number of ways this is almost like different ingredients, right? That you can put together to make a recipe. Like I can take tomatoes and mushrooms and onions, and together I can use them to then add dough and make a pizza, or I can use them to make a salad, or I can use them to make a soup, or I can put them in my slow cooker and put some meat in there and make like a stew or something. My point is that they all will have the flavors of tomato, onion, mushroom, but they have different outcomes. So when I'm giving these collective predictions of the specific scenarios that could happen, I'm just giving, that's what it is, just specific scenarios. And you might be going through an exact replica of what I say, or a combination of many of them, but you may be getting the same energy, but not the exact one. But I'm just trying to make you understand of how, when doing a general reading, I can blend these to give you a prediction. But just know that if none of these are exactly what's going to happen, take that same energy and expand it to whatever's happening in your life right now. So, for example, in relationships, with Juno and Atira involved in this time, expect transformative shifts in partnerships. New relationships may suddenly pop up that feel faded, like you've met them before, or old ones may resurface to close karmic loops, either by creating a new chapter together or closing that loop permanently. This is really a powerful time for redefining your vision of love and commitment. With Mercury retrograde here, you're very likely to hear from an ex or to be the one who's suddenly having thoughts to reach out. If you have thoughts to reach out and you reach out and it doesn't go the way you wanted to, let me just tell you, don't get mad at me. That happened for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Sometimes the universe pushes us to get the closure that we need to move on. But alternatively, you don't know how it's going to go, and you will never know if you don't try, right? In love, I think it's always better to try and to speak and to get embarrassed and be turned away than it is to stay quiet and then for the rest of your life look back and think, what if this would have turned out differently if I said something? What if this turned out differently if I stepped forward? It is worth it always to take that chance, I think. Okay, so for travel, predictions, international travel plans could be disrupted, international travel systems could be disrupted, things like that, particularly those involving maybe spiritual journeys, retreats, study, academia. If you have like an academic visa, that could be some delays there. Be cautious of delays or unexpected challenges. Technology, mass communication issues on digital platforms could happen, or there could also be viral misinformation happening or really heated debates publicly on TV all around us. Remember, it rules communication and technology. Career and work, be aware of possible professional misunderstandings that may arise between you and a business partner or a colleague or your boss, particularly around goals or collaborations or the overall vision. Because Sagittarius is the archer, he's pointing towards the higher vision. Be patient and focus on clarity. In terms of financial decisions, impulsive financial decisions could lead to regret, so avoid risk-taking during the retrograde. Doesn't mean don't make decisions, right? Just be wise about it. In terms of spirituality and growth, deep introspection during this time may reveal new paths or truths, so be open to rewriting your personal story, but avoid rushing conclusions. Sagittarius is a very spiritual sign, more in this sense of learning about it, learning like, that kind of higher idea of the higher realms and connecting with them, whereas like Scorpio and Pisces are more about feeling with the spirituality. But anyway, with a retrograde happening in Sag, expect maybe a lot of these setbacks could be leading you to make spiritual changes or have spiritual aha moments. Another thing I want to add about the meaning of this opposition between Jupiter in Gemini and Mercury in Sagittarius. And again, as a reminder, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius. This is very speaking because the ruler in the sign is sitting at the opposition of the sign of Sagittarius. So we kind of want to think of, each sign has a sister sign and they sit on a 180-degree axis, which is what's causing this opposition by Jupiter being there. So basically what that means is Sagittarius and Gemini are sister signs. They're always opposing each other. And it's kind of saying here, in a way, what Gemini rules is like I don't want to say lower, but kind of the more material and 3D aspects of the subjects and topics that Sagittarius rules. And Sagittarius is the archer. What does an archer do? He shoots a bow. What does a bow do? A bow flies from the archer and shoots forward. And so in a way, the ruler of this Mercury retrograde sitting at a full opposition to Mercury during this time is kind of encouraging you through any upheavals or slowdowns that may come during the Mercury retrograde to use them to propel you forward, to shoot it forward. So like I said, an opposition tends to come with somewhat friction, but this friction really is not a bad thing. It's being used like the arrow and the bow to propel you. And this is very more specific in terms of where Jupiter and Mercury will be on your chart. But overall, it's kind of like if we think of Gemini as communication, as writing, as speaking, as intellectualizing, as loving to learn, curiosity, and, you know, and always keeping busy. And sometimes Gemini can be too much in the information gathering phase that it doesn't act. Whereas Sagittarius is also curiosity, but it's on a higher level. That curiosity is taking action, it's traveling, it's expanding it to the wider world and the wider realms. It's learning as well, but more about philosophy, more about spirituality, more about higher education. It's an adventurer. It takes that curiosity and doesn't stay in intellectualization, but goes out and travels and, you know, hops around and nomads and interacts with different cultures and life perspectives. So that's kind of what we mean by taking it from the Gemini energy and shooting it forward into the Sagittarian energy. So apply that in your life, how it will fit, but that's kind of also the energy and message of this retrograde. And then when we get into your all signs, you can understand where Mercury and Jupiter are in your chart, which will make it even more applicable to those themes within your chart. You know, the language of information in the universe from source in the stars is metaphors, and professionals like astrologers, shamans, and I don't mean like a 25-year-old blonde from California or France that hasn't even lived through anything that's calling herself a shaman. I mean actual real shamans, and, you know, any other spiritual practitioner, a tarot reader, a priest, whatever, is to take the language of metaphors and translate them, and through that's the coding of the universe. Okay. Without further ado, let's get into the signs. I want to say as well, we are so close to hitting 30 subscribers, and when I hit 30, I'll be picking 2 winners to take part and to enter. All you have to do is subscribe to this channel and also comment. You need to do both to count as an entry, and any additional comment after that will count as an additional subscription. Sorry, an additional entry. Hello Aries, Aries suns, moons, and risings. If you haven't, I really recommend you listen to the intro, because it was, frankly, as the youngins say, thebomb.com. It was great. It was jam-packed with so much information. Go listen to it. And just a reminder as well, I highly recommend prioritizing listening to your rising or ascendant sign, as that will be the most accurate, and then listening to your sun and moon. Listen to all 3 for a very holistic view. Okay, so Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, which is your 9th house of higher learning, travel, beliefs, foreign lands, spirituality, to the higher learning type of understanding of that, exploration, adventure, etc. And for you, it is a time to pause and reevaluate your long-term goals, your educational pursuits, your worldview, your spiritual view, etc. This 9th house energy is pushing you to question whether your current direction is aligning with your truth and your personal growth. With Jupiter, your 9th house ruler, and the ruler of this Mercury retrograde opposing Mercury, there's a tension between expansion and overcommitting. The added alignment of the asteroid Atira conjuncting Juno on the day that Mercury goes retrograde suggests that themes of purpose and commitment in relationships may somehow intertwine with your broader life goals. What Aries should be aware of: possible travel disruptions. If you're planning any trips, double check itineraries and be flexible with plans, delays, cancellations, etc. These may force you to slow down. By the way, because Aries is the starter of the zodiac, you might not understand me theoretically explaining this, but your individual reading is going to sound very similar to the collective because of how Aries sits in a chart. So you, like the collective reading, please go to that. It's going to apply to you even more specifically. And your individual reading is going to sound like that, but in more detail, but missing out some of the things I mentioned in the collective part. Okay. Also be aware of miscommunication, maybe pertaining to legal matters, education, immigration, travel, with a partner when it comes to spiritual things, etc. Be careful with any university assignments, applications, legal processes, like I mentioned, to immigration as well. Errors or misunderstandings may arise. This could be a time where you could be revisiting your beliefs, or, the retrograde might bring a moment of existential questioning. Old beliefs might be challenged. You may be feel called to explore new philosophies or spiritual practices. A way to think of this opposition energy between Jupiter and Mercury, Jupiter being the ruler of this Mercury retrograde, is kind of if you've been sitting in the over planning, over information gathering, over communicating stage of an idea or a trip or an immigration move or something like that, and you've been sitting in that kind of Gemini energy of gathering info, talking about it, looking at things online, comparing, but not actually doing anything. This retrograde might be causing things that seem like delays or mishaps to kind of force you to shoot the arrow forward into taking a step out there and actioning out, exploring, applying, moving, actually taking it to the next level, the higher realm, things like that. So some predictive examples of how these energies might play out together. You might encounter a mentor, professor, or guide from your past who inspires you to revisit a shelved goal. You might encounter a legal matter or immigration matter or travel matter you thought was resolved, and it could resurface, which could require attention and possibly offering closure or a new solution. If you've been considering international travel, relocation, moving, going to a retreat internationally or somewhere that seems very foreign to you, this could even be foreign in a spiritual sense, even if it's in the same place. Plans may suddenly shift, which could give you time to reflect on your motivations, and if you really want that, it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing, right? For single Aries, someone with a foreign background, perhaps tied to past travels or tied to similar philosophies or tied to your education or tied to your love of traveling, might reappear, which could offer you a chance for a deeper connection. You could be reflecting on people you've met in the past who share a similar philosophical and life view that perhaps in the past you've let them go, and now it's offering a chance for reconnection. You could be reflecting on whether your past approach to relationships aligns with your current values. This could lead to a profound realization about the kind of partner you truly need. You could be realizing that how you've been dating or the people you've been dating don't align with who you are or where you want to go or what your lifestyle or spiritual or philosophical or lifestyle beliefs are. And this could be causing you to reevaluate. For coupled Aries, discussion with your partner about long-term plans and long-term life philosophies and spiritualities, and this could include everything from what you believe in to how you want to raise kids to how you want to live your life, to travel or nomading or education or moving abroad, may come to the forefront, and this could be a good thing or a bad thing. If it's going in the good direction, it could cause you to cement planning that together, or if it's going in the bad direction, I don't want to say bad because everything happens for a reason, but it could be helping you realize that maybe you're not as aligned and you're not as suited for each other. If your partner has been overcommitting, this retrograde might highlight the need to balance your shared responsibilities. Now, tying this in with Juno and Atira, with Atira and Juno conjuncting, the focus on long-term purpose and commitment intensifies. So for Aries, this could lead to, and I forgot to mention this is happening in your 8th house, which is ruled by Scorpio, in both in theory and also literally for you. So that's a lot of very intense, passionate energy. This could be redefining what commitment means for you, especially if it involves long-distance relationship or culturally different partnerships, but partnerships that actually feel soul and spiritually aligned, where you're feeling this urge to merge souls and there's a lot of passion. This could lead to finding alignment between your personal growth goals and your growing need for a deeply intimate soul-merging relationship. If something feels out of sync one way or the other, changes may occur. And lastly, this may lead to a sudden opportunity to join a meaningful adventure, course, or project with a possible partner that strengthens your bond. Next up, Taurus. Taurus, suns, moons, and risings. If you haven't yet, the intro is really jam-packed with so much info. I won't go over here. That and advice on how to prep for this Mercury retrograde and why it's different than the other ones this year. And as a reminder, please listen to your rising/ascendant sign primarily, and then listen to your sun and moon. But the rising sign should theoretically be the most accurate, but listen to all three for a holistic view of your chart. And how accurate each one is versus the other will also be determined by your chart. Okay, so, I mean, if an astrologer is listening to this, they're going to debate the sentence I just said. So we'll just skip over that. Okay, so Taurus, for you, Mercury retrograde is shifting attention to your 8th house of shared resources, intimacy in both the physical, emotional, and spiritual sense, transformation, and deeper truths. 8th house is also the house of death and rebirth, also and that includes birth, also the house of like souls merging, like that level of intimacy and commitment. And it's also the house of alchemization of trauma, like your kind of the dark aspects of yourself. So miscommunications or delays could arise around all those topics. So joint finances, inheritances, emotional bonds, intimate relations when it comes to the intimacy part, and heaven forbid, death or birth, rebirth. And Jupiter's opposition from Gemini in the 2nd house here. And remember, Jupiter is the ruler of Sagittarius, so it's the ruler of this Mercury retrograde. This adds tension between personal values and shared commitments and urges reflection on where you feel overextended or undervalued, or where you may be doing that to someone else. So potential events, delayed payments, or financial mismanagement may surface. Certain miscommunications or communications or delays could come up when it has to do with things like loans, debt, if you owe someone money, if someone's providing for you. You may reevaluate trust dynamics in a partnership, uncovering a secret or truth that reshapes the bond. An old emotional wound tied to vulnerability may resurface, offering a chance for healing. This could be even something like a trauma. An ex that you felt very passionately about in the past may reappear, causing healing or something like that. If you are expecting, maybe your child could come earlier than expected during this retrograde, or maybe you could get some unexpected news regarding that. Knock on wood, hopefully all good. So the ruler's impact, Jupiter, being in opposition is challenging how you balance your need and your shared commitments. So you may feel torn between personal financial security and obligations to others, personal values and merging with others. This tension could bring a breakthrough if you align back with your core values. At the same time, the same day Mercury goes into retrograde, we have a Juno Atira conjunction happening in your 7th house in Scorpio. This conjunction in your house of relationships and partnership, like serious partnership, is emphasizing soul dynamics, contracts, and commitments. For singles, this could reawaken a past connection or highlight a fated partnership. For couples, a hidden truth about shared goals or intimacy or money could come to the surface, or like your guys' own trauma and wounds. Themes of reciprocity and fairness are really taking center stage here. So singles, an unexpected encounter with someone from your past may reappear, presenting a chance for closure or a new chapter to rekindle. You might be the one instigating this. This is especially true if you feel like they awaken like really like a sense of like carnal passion within you, or you feel drawn like a soul merging essence within them. Couples, existing relationships could experience deeper emotional bonding or critical conversation about shared responsibilities. So my advice is ground yourself in your values and avoid rushing financial decisions or overly emotional reactions to revelations, or be careful if you're communicating about these things. Focus on clarity in communication and embrace the opportunity for transformation. Gemini suns, moons, and risings. The intro is full of really important information, including how to prepare for this retrograde and just like the overall themes and my predictions for you and the collective. So highly recommend you listen to that because I talk about what makes this retrograde different. But without further ado, let's talk about the specifics of where it's impacting on your chart. Remember, I highly recommend listening to the ascendant and rising sign, as that will be the most accurate. And then also, of course, to your sun and moon. The three together should give you an overall holistic view. And of course, a one-on-one reading will be the most accurate. Okay, so Geminis, Mercury retrograde is spotlighting your 7th house of relationships, partnerships, and contracts. Because you are a Gemini rising and your sister sign, so your direct opposition sign is Sagittarius, meaning that this retrograde, and this means Mercury is moving back, so it's happening in this house, so it's likely going to be conjuncting your descendant. Descendant is an angle that talks about your life partner and like that kind of love and relationships in serious partnerships, and it means it's directly opposing is a frictional aspect, your ascendant, because it's opposing your first house, and ascendant is what marks the first house, and that's the angle that talks about kind of your outer layer of the onion, that's your personality, that deals with the world and that the world sees in you. So and remember, listen to the intro, Mercury retrogrades tend to bring miscommunications or delays, and also Mercury's intellectualization. Retrograde is going back, so it's looking back a little bit as well, and kind of reevaluating from looking in the past. So expect miscommunications or delays in one-on-one dynamics, whether professional or personal, whether romantic or relationship-based. This can really kind of happen in all one-on-one relationship aspects, because if we broaden the meaning of the 7th house, it's kind of like relationships overall. So the retrograde energy combined with Jupiter's opposition from your first house, and remember, Jupiter is actually the ruler of this retrograde, may make you question how much of yourself you're compromising to maintain harmony. May make you question any imbalances you're having between existing as your own self, and existing in a partnership, whether the imbalance is coming in one way or the other. So the ruler of Sagittarius, of where this Mercury retrograde is happening, Jupiter, will be transiting Gemini. So Jupiter in your first house is magnifying your self-awareness and independence, but the opposition to Mercury in your 7th house could leave you feeling torn between asserting your needs and meeting the expectations of others. This could be happening, like you may realize where your individuality has been overshadowed in relationships, leading to necessary adjustments, or you may realize how you've been hyper protecting yourself and using individuality as your scapegoat and coping mechanism. I feel like someone listening to this is very applicable to them, and how that could be actually costing you the potential for a real, fulfilling, lifelong relationship, and that might need to be fixed, right? You cannot have someone open up to you and want to be with you if you are overly independent. There has to be balance between the two. Same thing with people who are overly dependent. I have one of my favorite quotes or ideas, and I'm paraphrasing this, so I could be butchering it, but it's by a Lebanese poet / philosopher named Khalil Gibran, and he talks about how existing in a marriage, and we can apply this marriage to partnership, each individual is kind of like a column, and the relationship is like the house or the balcony that the column is serving as the foundation for and holding it up. And so if we have two people like two columns holding up the house of a relationship, if they stand too close together, the weight is not balanced equally, so the house falls. But if they stand too far apart, it's also not a stable foundation, so the house collapses. So they have to stand the right level of together and the right level of apart to be able to hold up the weight forever. So it's this kind of energy, and you could be having, again, miscommunications or delays, or reflections being forced on you right now to ask you to reflect that within yourself. Okay. At the same time, the same day that Mercury goes into retrograde, we also have a Juno-Atira conjunction happening in Scorpio. Juno is the asteroid of love, marriage, and commitment. And Atira is the asteroid that talks about destiny. I go more into this in the intro, but I also have a video that I released just before this talking about Juno moving into Scorpio. So now I'm just going to talk about combining that with Atira and the fact that this is happening the first day of Mercury retrograde. But again, to know more about Juno moving into Scorpio, which will tell you things changing in your life to do with commitment, marriage, and life partners, I recommend listening to my last video. But anyway, the Juno-Atira conjunction is falling in your 6th house where you have Scorpio, which is the house of daily routines, daily work life, health, fitness, service, and could also be pets. And this is suggesting that relationship dynamics could be affected by stress, workload, or imbalanced responsibilities. For singles, this might manifest as meeting someone significant through work or a routine activity, or reflecting how that aspect for you is affecting things, developing with certain people, and it may cause you to need to reevaluate. Or for couples, you may need to realign shared goals and responsibilities. So, in terms of potential ways this energy may come up, of course, these are just examples. There's really infinite ways to merge these energies together. So the beginning of this was to give you the energy breakdown and how it applies to your life, but to give you an idea of how it can come up. An old relationship may resurface, which could be offering closure or a second chance. Listen, in general, we call Mercury retrograde the return of the exes, but because this one is happening in your 7th house, if any sign is gonna have an old relationship resurface, it's gonna be you. And this could be resurfacing intellectually in your mind. So you could be the one having all these ideas and remembering your ex and feeling the call to reach out and, oh my God, why can't I stop thinking of this one person I went out with last year and how I messed up or how they messed up or something. Or this could be you actually reaching out, or this could be them reaching out to you, or this could also be you running into them or seeing their name pop up everywhere, things like this. So listen to my intro on how I recommend handling that. If that's the case, I go into it. You could also have a business or partnership collaboration face delays, but it could open the door for renegotiation. A conversation about shared responsibilities in daily lives could help clarify mutual expectations. Singles, you could meet someone while volunteering at a wellness retreat, through a fitness thing, or through professional connections or daily work life. Couples may find themselves reassessing shared goals in daily routines, perhaps discussing living together, family planning, or shared financial obligations. You might be reevaluating what you want in a relationship and how you're showing up, and reevaluating how much of your daily life is making that hard, or reevaluating the values that you want to bring forward, or what part of how you live your day-to-day needs to change in order to let someone else come in. Okay, so overall advice, stay patient with any relationship-related delays or miscommunications. Oh yeah, because for couples, this could really be a time where you're having a lot of miscommunications with your partner, possible arguments and possible friction when it comes to the dynamic of either one of you or both of you existing in a relationship and existing individually, in that balance I talked about earlier. So take this retrograde as an opportunity to really dig deeper into those dynamics and to what other dynamics need refining, whether personal or professional. Focus on balance between what you give and what you receive in partnerships, and don't lose your cool, because tempers are likely to fly at this time. So just keep that in mind and give both yourself and other people grace. Hello Cancer, Cancer suns, moons, and risings. If you haven't yet, highly recommend you listen to the intro. I go so deep about this retrograde and what to expect and collective predictions, and also talk about the specifics of why it's unique. I won't go into as much detail of the aspects there. In here. And just as a reminder, you can find the timestamps in the description box below, and I highly recommend prioritizing listening to your ascendant or your rising sign. I talk about that as well in the intro. But also listen to your sun and moon. Listen to all three to get a holistic overall view. Okay, so Mercury's retrograde in your 6th house of daily routines, health, and work highlights the need to revisit how you structure your day-to-day life. This period may bring disruptions to your schedule, technical glitches at work, or unexpected health check-ins. That's really, besides the disruptions to your routine, like this could be a time as well where you're having a hard time sticking to a routine, or where your daily work life is just seeming unbearable, or really some kind of unexpected health issue may pop up. You could get a communication about your health that you're not expecting, or something like that. The opposition, the opposition, it's funny because I was about to talk about Jupiter. Jupiter is the Roman name for Zeus, and you can see how kind of fast my brain's moving, that instead of saying the opposition to Jupiter, I said the opposition. Okay, so the opposition from Jupiter, who's also Zeus, in your 12th house is really encouraging introspection. This is especially valid because Jupiter here is the ruler of this Mercury retrograde. Okay, and so this is linking your outer routine to deeper spiritual or subconscious needs or your mental health patterns. It's like Sagittarius' bow and arrow is directing Gemini's curiosity inwards, asking you, how can your daily habits serve a higher purpose? How is your mental health affecting your daily habits and how you're showing up daily in your work life and your health? And vice versa, how is your physical health and your daily routine also affecting your higher self and your mental health? So really, Jupiter's position in the 12th house here is amplifying the energy of hidden matters, spirituality, and rest. This opposition may ask you to balance external obligations with the need for mental clarity, inner growth, inner peace, and good mental health. Overextending yourself now could lead to burnout, so use this time to redefine your balance between productivity and rest. So we also have Juno and Atira conjuncting in Scorpio on the day that Mercury goes retrograde. They are both asteroids. I talk about this a lot in the beginning in more detail. And introduce you to who and what they are. And also, I just released a video going in completely to Juno and Scorpio and the changes that will bring to your marriage, life partner, commitment, all of these aspects in your life. This is especially valid if you're, single or getting married or in a relationship. It doesn't matter where you are in that scope. Highly recommend you listen to it. It was the last video I posted before this. But anyway, here I'm just going to talk about the Atira conjunction with Juno happening on the day of how it could be relevant with the Mercury retrograde energy. So combining it. Okay, so with this conjunction in your 5th house of romance, creativity, self-expression, children, also includes inner child, also the house of entrepreneurship, and you're having your own business, and the house of hobbies. There's a chance to deepen, but listen, the Juno, I'm just talking about the Juno-Atira conjunction happening here. So Juno, again, the asteroid of commitment, life partners, marriage, who you're going to marry, etc. This is bringing more of the kind of romance, I would say, meaning to it, or adding, again, a commitment to those subjects of the 5th house. So there's a chance to deepen the emotional connections in this area. You might explore creative or passion pursuits that are tied to meaningful relationships, or experience a reevaluation of how love and passion show up in your life. Potential events, a health routine from the past might resurface, which could offer a chance to redefine or refine it or recommit to it. Like I mentioned earlier, you could be having a hard time focusing at work. Your mental health could be affecting your job. You might be you could get something with health that forces you to recommit to your routine, things like that. A technical error at work might force you to find creative solutions, ultimately improving your workflows. You might meet someone romantically tied to a shared creative interest, or you might revisit an old flame, leading to unexpected clarity. So Mercury retrograde is often called the season where the exes come back, and that's going to depend on how it hits each person's chart. But because for you, you're having Juno and Atira activate your 5th house at the same time, you're one of the signs that could be experiencing an ex returning, or you feeling called to be the ex that reaches out to someone. Mercury is also intellectualization, and retrograde forces us to look at the past, right? So you could be reflecting a lot on the past and thinking a lot about someone from the past. A project or hobby that you've put on the shelf may demand attention, particularly if it ties to your emotional or passion fulfillment. An opportunity might arise for you to explore the connection between your physical health, your emotional and mental well-being, and your daily life, your daily routine. Overall, for my advice, this retrograde is an opportunity for you to align your daily habits with your long-term goals. Lean into Jupiter's influence here by carving out time for solitude, reflection, and spiritual practices, while keeping an eye on practical matters and possibly recommitting to love or to a passion project or to what makes your inner child happy. Hello Leos, suns, moons, and risings. This is the last Mercury retrograde for this year, and it is also a very special Mercury retrograde because of the other aspects that are affecting it and other transits happening during this time. Highly recommend you listen to the intro because I go more into that. And I talk about the shadow period as well, before and after. And kind of how to handle the retrograde energy and my predictions for the collective. Jumping into you, just want to remind you that you can find timestamps in the description box below, although you probably already know that because you're here. And I highly recommend you first listen to your ascendant and rising sign, and then listen to your sun and moon. Listen to all three to get a holistic view that is more accurate. Okay, so for you, Leos, Mercury is retrograding through your 5th house of creativity, romance, self-expression, hobbies, children, inner children, and also the house of entrepreneurship. So, you know, I talked about this a little bit in the beginning overall, that Mercury retrograde has a reputation of being the season of the exes, when it's like the return of the exes, like they rise from the grave and come and haunt you. Not necessarily haunt, maybe they come bringing flowers, then you get back together and live happily ever after. Who knows? Anyway, and I said that how this will actually apply is, and where I have seen, yes, I have seen this definitely happen, but not all Mercury retrogrades are the same, and it's really dependent as well based off of where it is in your chart. Now, because this is directly happening in your 5th house, you are actually one of the signs that may very much experience this happening, because the 5th house, like I said, also talks about romance. And Mercury is the planet that rules communication, communication, technology, and intellectualization. And a retrograde is a pause, a delay, a reevaluation. You look back again, etc. You revisit things. So you may find yourself thinking what brings you joy, or rediscovering passions you left behind. Or this retrograde will shine a spotlight on past lovers, forgotten hobbies, unfinished projects, or any way you feel like you've abandoned your inner child. This could be a time where you're having communication issues with romance, communication issues to do with entrepreneurship or creativity, or with your children, because 5th house also is children, if of course this is applicable. Now, we also have Jupiter, the ruler of Sagittarius, so the ruler of this retrograde, in direct opposition to Sagittarius because it's currently transiting Gemini. This is super, like this is a quite big deal. So Jupiter opposing this Mercury retrograde from your 11th house of friendships and community. This retrograde is suggesting a tug-of-war between personal creativity, the self. Leo is very much like, it can be stereotyped as a selfish sign, but we don't necessarily have to think about that in a bad way. It really talks about the self, like thinking of me, I am, spotlight on me versus collective. And we could apply this tension and tug of war between friendships and community with all the other stuff I told you the 5th house affects. Children, romance, creativity, your business, hobbies, your inner child, etc. So imagine it like Sagittarius' arrow being drawn back by the 11th house, by Gemini's inquisitive energy, by your network, and then shooting forward into your 5th house. It's really asking you to explore how your personal expression serves or is shaped by your wider network, and how your life, to do with all the topics I talked about, could be being affected by community, collaboration, long-term goals, dreams, and friends. This opposition is highlighting the need to balance your personal creative spark with group dynamics. Are you prioritizing your unique voice while remaining open to others' input? Now, throughout this time, we're also having a Juno and Atira conjunction in Scorpio happening in your 4th house. I go all into Juno, the asteroid of marriage, commitment, and partnership, in the last video I posted here because it just entered Scorpio. Right now, I'm just going to briefly mention that it is conjuncting the asteroid Atira. Also listen to the intro because I go into this more. And that I'll just mention the impact of this conjunction happening the same day that Mercury goes retrograde. So this conjunction is activating your 4th house of home, family, and emotional roots, bringing a profound revelation of your commitments in these areas. You may feel drawn to reassess your foundation, whether it's your living situation, family dynamics, or sense of security. Something might happen here that feels tied to destiny. So potential events overall of how these different energies could blend and come out in real life. There's really an infinite number of ways to blend these energies. So earlier I talked about these energies and what could happen for you, but just to give you some more specific examples, a creative project or entrepreneurship project you abandoned could resurface now with fresh inspiration, or you can have some kind of communication here that feels like a setback or delay or a hiccup, but might not actually be the case. We talked about the fact that an old flame might reappear, or you could be the old flame that reappears, or they could even just reappear nonstop in your thoughts. Or you could be thinking a lot about them in your day-to-day life. They could be influencing your creative pursuits. But anyway, this is a chance for you to either rekindle a romance or provide closure. You could have miscommunications in group settings or friend settings or community settings that could force you to clarify. And this could lead to stronger collaborations. Family discussions about shared responsibilities or past emotional wounds might take center stage, which could offer healing opportunities. A childhood passion or hobby could return, which could offer unexpected joy or even financial potential. You could be, also if you've been trying to have children, you could be feeling like you're having a hard time with this, or you're not on the same page with your partner, or you're having a hard time, or if you're in pregnancy, you could be experiencing maybe like a harder time with some of the symptoms. Or if you're supposed to be giving birth, you could have, your child could go past due. Remember, retrograde energy, it's not like saying you're fated to this. If, for example, you're trying to have children now, but you're having a hard time getting pregnant because of this retrograde in the 5th house, it could just be like that this delay is it's happening for a reason. There's some reason that you're having this intention, this delay, or what feels like a step back happening, and it's giving you an opportunity to either heal something internally or something to change externally, etc. Overall, take this retrograde to revisit creative ventures and relationships that matter to you, but ensure that they align with your current goals, and use Jupiter's influence to network with those who inspire your ambitions, while setting healthy boundaries to protect your individuality and making your dreams a reality. Ooh, I just rhymed. Hello, Virgos, suns, moons, and risings. I'm actually a Virgo moon. Oh, and a Virgo Venus. So hello, fellow Virgos. Mercury retrograde is happening in your 4th house. It will be retrograde from November 25th to December 15th. You are definitely already feeling this because the shadow period would have started around 2 weeks before and will continue for around 2 weeks after. I go in a lot more into this in the intro, so highly recommend you listen to that, because I also talk about what makes this Mercury retrograde different from the others this year. By the way, this is the last Mercury retrograde of the year, so please listen to the intro if you can. But Mercury is retrograding through your 4th house of home, family, and emotional foundations, which is inviting you to revisit your past, to examine your roots, and to address any unresolved issues related to security and belonging and building a family. This is just the surface level and starting point of what this means for you. We're about to dive into it. Just a reminder before we do that to please listen to your rising and ascendant sign, and also listen to your sun and moon. Listen to all 3 to get an accurate and overall view, but theoretically, the most accurate one will be your rising and your ascendant, so do not skip it. And I talk more about that and explain more about that in the intro as well. Okay, so what's interesting about this retrograde that makes it very special is we have the ruler of this retrograde. So Mercury is retrograding in Sagittarius, so the ruler is Jupiter. Jupiter is actually currently opposing this Mercury retrograde exactly. It's an exact opposition, so sitting at 180 degrees of each other, meaning Jupiter is transiting Gemini. This means that you're being opposed with this retrograde from your 10th house of career and public life and authority and reputation. What does this mean? It means that there's tension happening in your life, like Mercury is retrograding, things are coming up for you to bring up issues for you to fix between your private, intimate life and your professional world. this tension between them is becoming undeniable, and if you've been denying it, the things that might come up during this retrograde are to help you fix it. Mercury is all about intellectualization, but it's also about communication, and it's also about curiosity to a certain extent, and a retrograde, and also technology, by the way, side note, and to some extent travel too. Anyway, but a retrograde is a pause. Is a pause, is a redirection, is revisiting, it's rethinking, and delays as well. So you could be experiencing things either internally or externally that seem like delays, pauses, redirections, things going wrong, etc., that are happening for you to revisit and rework this tension you have between your 4th and your 10th house, between your sense of home, building a family, having a family, even to some levels partnership when it relates to that, and your sense of career, direction, vocation, etc. Sagittarius is archer. Sagittarius is the archer. Sagittarius is the adventurer. It's the thinker. And Sagittarius is always seen having a bow and an arrow. So here, it's like a good way to think about it, where Sagittarius, the archer, is holding its bow and its arrow, and it's drawing from Gemini's intellectualization energy, and that energy of wanting a home as well, because it's 4th house, and it's pushing that bow forward and encouraging reflection on how past decisions influence your present and future stability. AKA, so it's like he's shooting the bow from your career and trying to shoot forward into building a home or a family. So let's go a little bit more into the impact of Sagittarius's ruler, Jupiter in Gemini. So we have Jupiter opposing Mercury, which is really amplifying these themes of expansion and growth in your 10th house while pulling attention to your 4th house of inner life. So this is a planetary push and pull that's highlighting how maybe professional ambitions might be affecting your ability to create a happy, fulfilling personal life. It's a cosmic nudge to question if external success is aligning with your deepest desires, where you're out of balance, and where you might be using your 10th house, your career, and there to deny yourself the want for growth happening in your 4th house, which is in your emotional world. They say the relationship with the feminine, the mother, and building a family, your home, having a home base, having a family, things like that. What's interesting is the same day that Mercury goes retrograde, we also have a Juno Atira conjunction happening in Scorpio, which is your 3rd house of communication. 3rd house is normally traditionally associated with Gemini, and Mercury, so it's kind of emphasizing a lot of these. Now, Juno is the asteroid of marriage, life partners, and commitment, and Atira is the asteroid of destiny and purpose. I talk about this more in the intro, but I also, just before this video, released a video all about Juno moving into Scorpio, and it is very big for you because it's happening in your 3rd house. So I really recommend going and listening to that, just because when Juno moves sometimes and it has noticeable kind of movements, it can really, really have life-changing events. That is especially true if you happen to be having your own natal Juno in Scorpio, because that means you're going through a Juno return. If that's the case, I recommend listening to that video. Right now, I'm just going to talk about the Atira conjunction aspect and what could this mean when we combine it with Mercury retrograde. Since the day that Mercury retrogrades, we are having this conjunction. By the way, a conjunction is when two elements in the sky, whether it's a planet or an asteroid, are touching, meaning they're at the same degree. Okay, so the conjunction of Juno and Atira happening in your 3rd house of communication, communicating, technology, intellectualization, local environment, and daily interaction is bringing faded conversations, faded reemergings, and significant reconnections. These energies suggest an opportunity to deepen or reignite bonds, particularly with someone you've shared a history with. This history aspect is coming in because this retrograde is happening in your 4th house, and the same day that Juno and Atira is conjuncting. So I'm kind of seeing that If you do have something to do with love and romance happening, it could be with someone that you felt a home feeling with, or that you could build a home with, or that felt like home, or that made your emotional body feel safe, etc. And, a lot of the times Mercury retrograde is referred to the season of the ex. By the way, listen to the intro, I go more into that. And I said how much I have seen that happen, but how much in the way that comes forward will depend on each person's chart. Now, with your fourth house activation, fourth house is more your emotional world, family, but also overall relationship with the feminine, building a sense of home, etc. But with this Juno and Atira conjunction at the same time, I could see you being one of the signs where this could be a theme, either where you're revisiting something from the past, or someone is, and one person or the other starts to trigger recommunication. Scorpio's influence here is adding intensity, honesty, and potential for transformation, because Scorpio is all about alchemization, and these could be happening with interactions. So I've talked about all the potential energies. Let me give you more examples of the way these energies could mix together in real life. There's really an infinite number of ways for this to happen, more than the ones I've listed. And so you could do that yourself and apply it to your life. But I just wanted to kind of show you how to apply this realistically, because the universe speaks in metaphors, and it's really the job of spiritual practitioners to translate these metaphors to practicality. Now remember, of course, though, this is a general reading. So, potential events. Like we said, a partner or romantic interest from the past may reemerge, sparking conversations about unfinished business or reigniting deep emotions. This could include a chance to revisit unresolved feelings, explore whether timing was the issue, or find closure. This could lead to a rekindling or a healing and moving on. You might find yourself contemplating how your career ambitions have shaped or have hindered your ability to nurture a meaningful partnership that could lead to building a family or a home. Questions like, am I sacrificing too much for success? Or what do I truly want in my personal life may arise? Or what do I have to bring more into balance? For me, the energy here is really about balance, and whether or not you're using the 10th house, where that opposition from Jupiter is coming from, the career, leadership, reputation, place in society, etc. How much are you using that as an excuse to, or how much is it hindering your growth of your fourth house stuff? Building a family, building a home, having a safe emotional life, etc. Discussions with your own family members could lead to revelations about your beliefs when it comes to commitment, emotional security, or even how past family matters affected your current relationships. This is a time as well where they could be more likely to be having disagreements with family or miscommunications. So just be patient when it comes to that. People in your own family could be fighting, even if it doesn't include you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be fighting. It could just be hypersensitivity, more likely to miscommunicate, technical issues when communicating with them, delays if you were planning on seeing them. You could also, Mercury is intellectualization and looking back. So you could also be feeling very homesick and very much longing for having a home. This could be a time where feelings of, if you felt like you've moved a lot or felt like you don't have a place that feels like home, these feelings could be popping up. And the way they're popping up, or the things that are popping up around this time, could be inviting you to kind of deal with them or fix it or find a solution somehow. You could be having a significant communication with a sibling or a neighbor or an old friend or a family member, or someone from your daily work life, that might shift your perspective on what truly matters. This person could help reconnect you with an old dream or goal. Nostalgia, we've talked about this a little, could take the form of revisiting a past home, whether physically or emotionally, and considering whether to rebuild connections or let go. An unexpected conversation with someone in your local environment or someone that feels like home could lay the foundation for a transformative relation or collaboration. Family discussions might surface, revealing hidden dynamics or unresolved issues, and offering opportunities for healing and reconnection. A nostalgic connection to a childhood home or memory might reawaken something in you, prompting a physical or emotional revisit. Miscommunications or mishaps in domestic settings, aka like a forgotten bill, something like actually happening in your home, like piping bursting, or something like that, could turn into learning moments about patience and honesty. You could be having issues in your home, like termites, heaven forbid, or I don't know, some kind of issues. If you've bought a home and are recently, working with a home, you could be having a lot of things delay or going wrong, whether it's in the processing, the paperwork, or the buying process, or the renovation, redecoration process, or just things that feel like they're going wrong. A work opportunity or career recognition could pull your focus away from home, forcing you to reassess your long-term priorities, or vice versa. Something emotionally or related to a feeling of home or family or emotions could feel like it's giving you an opportunity, pulling you away from how intensely you may have been at work, and causing you to question the balance there. Overall, this retrograde happening in your 4th house with the ruler directly opposing it in your 10th house is asking you to reflect on whether the pursuit of success in the 10th house, the career, the vocation, the leadership there, has overshadowed and been out of balance with your ability to create a fulfilling, intimate life in the 4th house, whether that's meaning of belonging, family, building a family, or having someone that feels like home, etc., and also a safe emotional place for yourself internally. The appearance of a past partner or unresolved emotions could provide clarity about what you truly value in a relationship, or you could be revisiting past partnerships to get that clarity. Use this time to bridge gaps in understanding, either with yourself or with others, and allow honest conversations to guide your next steps. Jupiter's influence reminds you that balance between professional achievement and personal happiness is key to long-term fulfillment, and the 4th house is really about building that security in a sense of emotional self and security in a sense of home and a base. And that is actually, with this opposition, you might think that one hinders the other, but actually there has to be balance, and safety in one propels the other. And if you're feeling this kind of tug of war between career and home life, emotional life, building a family, building a base, etc., one way to think about it, I use this when I'm explaining to other signs about the balance between independence, the self, and being in a relationship. In a way, this is a little bit different, but we can apply it to this because there's still a tug and pull with those themes when we're talking about career versus emotional and home life. So there's a poet and a philosopher that I love. His name is Khalil Gibran. You've probably heard of him. He's a Lebanese poet and writer. And I hope I don't butcher this paraphrasing, but he talks about this imagery of existing in a marriage or a partnership as columns that act like a foundation and hold up a house, where the house itself is the relationship or the partnership. So we can apply this to you as well, right? Now, if the columns stand too close together, then there's not even distribution of the weight above and the house collapses. But if the columns stand too far apart, then there's not even distribution, and again, the house, the relationship, etc., it collapses. So the columns have to stand just the right amount together and just the right amount apart to be able to hold that up. And I was explaining it earlier for one of the other signs about the relationship with the self and being in a relationship, being together all the time versus being alone. You can apply this to the tension you might be feeling with the 10th and 4th house, your career, and building a stable emotional home foundation, really building a family, a house, a setting, whatever that is. Somehow it could be coming up in this that there's a reimbalance, and the answer is to balance them out, just like these columns holding up the house. They don't hinder each other, they can actually help each other. And in order to achieve success in both, you have to reevaluate the give and take, and that's what this Mercury retrograde is bringing. Another way to interpret this too, something to do with your career could be causing, like if we're talking about the upheavals in home, like maybe those repairs, the neglect in the home, the more physical things going wrong in the home, the delays, maybe career is somehow impacting those delays. Maybe you don't have enough time to fix it, etc. Maybe because you were so busy with career, you overlooked certain repairs or maintenance that had to be done and things went wrong, etc. Anyway, anything that goes wrong or that feels like it's hindered or that you're being forced to revisit or that's popping into your mind, that you're intellectualizing, that you're receiving communication about, if you're feeling pulled to reach out to someone, all of that happening in this time frame is happening for a reason. Hello Libra. Libra, suns, moons, and risings. Mercury is retrograding through your third house of communication, learning, daily interactions, and to a certain extent, technology, social media, and writing and siblings. This is happening on November 25th to December 15th, 2024. If you haven't, I recommend you listen to the intro because I go into detail about this last Mercury retrograde of the year, all the other aspects that are affecting it, what makes this one different, because each one is different, and also the shadow periods before and after when you would have started feeling the impact and how long it will last beyond the retrograde. So, third house, it also rules how you think. Same with Mercury. Third house is one of the houses associated with Gemini, which is traditionally ruled by Mercury. So here, you're being asked to rethink how you connect, share ideas, process information. This could also be asking you to rethink certain things about the relationship with your siblings, etc. Now, because the third house is typically ruled by Mercury, and this is talking about a Mercury retrograde, you're going to find it sounding like I'm repeating a lot of the same information, but Mercury traditionally rules communication, technology, and short distance travel, or also long distance travel. And and when we see Mercury go into a retrograde for any planet really is about taking a step back. It's about pauses, it's about delays, it's about things going wrong, and it's to force us to revisit, rethink, recalibrate, reevaluate, and any other reads that I can think of that share that same idea. Basically, it asks us to really reflect. That was one. So when we apply that energy with the energy of Mercury, misunderstandings or delays may arise when it comes to your immediate environment, including with siblings, neighbors, or close friends. And you could have miscommunications on social media or with your siblings or with the people around your immediate environment. There could be something going wrong in how you process and communicate information. And like also if you rely on social media for your business or something, be aware of issues like that or glitches when it comes to posting or sharing communication. The retrograde period encourages you to slow down and revisit past conversations and find clarity in areas where communication may have faltered. What's interesting here is we have the ruler of this retrograde. So this retrograde is happening in Sagittarius. Sagittarius's ruler is Jupiter. Where is Jupiter transiting right now? It's actually transiting Gemini, which is Sagittarius's sister or opposing sign. And it's interesting because it's having this opposite effect, amplifying for you because Gemini is what traditionally rules the third house, but that's where you have Sagittarius. So not only that, not only that, but they're actually in exact opposition, meaning they are at around 180 degrees away from each other. So Jupiter is directly opposing Mercury. And this is happening. Jupiter for you is in your 9th house of expansion, higher learning, philosophy, spirituality, travel, curiosity, foreign lands, foreign ideals, the truth. 9th house also rules publishing, and you can see a lot of those themes are similar to what I mentioned about your 3rd house, but the idea is they're the higher realms, the less material, less physical, the more spiritual, the higher vibrational elements of the 3rd house themes. So it's interesting because it's like a double emphasis on this axis, on the 3rd and the 9th house axis, and then reversed with Sagittarius and Gemini. So you're being asked to balance small-scale details with the bigger picture of your goals and your beliefs. Sagittarius' fiery energy combined with Gemini's intellectual influence is creating an opportunity to recalibrate how your short-term plans support your long-term visions, and how your long-term visions are actually manifesting daily in your short-term plans and day-to-day. With Jupiter, the ruler of this retrograde, sitting in your 9th house of philosophy, travel, and higher learning, opposing Mercury in your 3rd house, it's highlighting a dynamic interplay between everyday interactions and grand ideas, between over-intellectualizing, over-planning, over-communicating, and actually going out there and doing, living, bringing it into the real life and bringing that adventure kind of quality to it. The tension between these areas may spark revelations about how your daily life supports or conflicts with your broader aspirations. Are the conversations you're having rooted in the truth you seek to live by? Jupiter in Gemini here is really fueling curiosity and inviting a more expansive perspective on these topics that you're being forced to revisit. At the same day Mercury is going retrograde, we also have a conjunction happening between Juno, the asteroid of marriage, commitment, love, and life partners, with Atira, the asteroid of destiny and purpose. I go more into this in the intro, so if you haven't, I recommend you listen to that. I also have a video all about Juno, which just recently entered Scorpio, talking about what that means for you in terms of commitment and life partners, etc. Right now, I'm just going to focus on blending that energy with the Mercury retrograde and what it looks like when Juno conjuncts or touches Atira the same day the retrograde starts. So this conjunction in Scorpio is happening in your 2nd house of real estate, values, resources, stocks, and self-worth. This is underscoring the importance of reevaluating commitments that influence your sense of security and stability, and also that influences your values. Scorpio's intensity here is adding depth and encouraging you to reflect on shared resources, partnerships, or financial arrangement. This aspect could bring up conversations about whether your current commitments align with your personal values and your long-term financial goals. Again, for more information on this Juno entering into Scorpio, which in astrology we call an ingress, check out the last video I posted, which is all about the Juno forecast. So, potential events or things that might happen. Now, I talked about the energies that are arising. So now with this potential events part, I'm basically mixing the energies together and giving you examples of how they will manifest in the physical. Though, of course, there's an infinite number of ways for this to happen. So I can't obviously go over all of them, but this is just to get you an idea, and some of these things may actually be happening in terms of what I see when I blend these energies together. So, there might be a significant conversation happening with a sibling, a neighbor, or a close friend, or someone you interact on a daily basis that could bring closure to a lingering misunderstanding or rekindle lost connection. With Mercury retrograding here in the 3rd house, you might actually have a disagreement with your sibling, or a fight, or something like that. Or a sibling may come forward talking about some issue or disagreement they've had that they need help with. So just be aware of that. It's nothing to be scared of. It just means to be patient and calm. And even, when Mercury retrogrades, communication can be going wrong and tempers could fly. So just be mindful and don't let that happen. You might receive news or revisit a past project related to writing, speaking, like public speaking or teaching. This could be a time to refine ideas before sharing them with a broader audience. This could look like, you being asked to do a speaking arrangement that, for something that you never thought you would get asked, something recoming from the past, because that's what retrogrades are. It's things from the past coming up again. If you've put down, like, for example, a writing project or a social media project or something like that, you could have heard back about when it came to doing it, or you could suddenly be pulled to revisit it again, or maybe you'll hear back in a way that seems like a setback, like a rejection from an agent. Speaking from personal experience here, man, I'm a Libra sun, and it's just crazy when I write my notes and I prepare all of these for these forecasts, and then when I read it and I kind of remember, oh wait, this sounds like what I'm going through now. And it is. It's just another funny reflection of how astrology really is accurate. For example, because I'm also a writer, and I've been querying my finished novel, and it's it's a very intense process. And the 3rd house and the 9th house, so the axis where you're getting hit by, literally rules the concept of writing a book and publishing it. That's the access for it. And a retrograde could feel like you're taking a step back, or Especially this is third house. Third house is communication. Mercury is also communication. Retrograde is bringing forward communication that feels like a step back. So it's a time where you might be receiving a lot of hurdles when it comes to this, things like rejections, etc. But really, it's not a bad thing. Retrogrades happen, things that seem like mishaps, delays, taking step backs, happen to help you revisit what needs to be fixed in order to move forward, or recalibrate and reroute if necessary. Okay, so a partner or collaborator might challenge you to examine whether your shared values align, particularly in financial or practical matters, or just genuine values. Travel plans, whether local or international, may face delays or require revisiting. This period is ideal for researching, planning, or returning to a destination that holds meaning for you. You may have an unexpected event stir up things, or message or communication stir up the need for you to take travel when you were not expecting it, or just to recalibrate when you have to travel. A spark of inspiration from a book, lecture, cultural event, or someone you meet could prompt you to reconnect with a big picture goal, aspiration, or dream. Unexpected expenses or financial adjustments may arise, particularly when it comes to joint finances or shared investments, which could urge you to reflect on your spending habits and partnership commitments. You might be feeling pushed to communicate with someone or post something on social media, and this push could be coming from some kind of lessons or aha moments you've had when it comes to like spiritual things or travel or philosophical changes. If you're connecting with people online or posting things for your business or personal life on social media or technology or publishing somewhere, this is the time to just be aware or plan for possible delays or mishaps. Again, nothing to be scared of, just things to plan for. If you're in school or some kind of academic process, you could have some delays when it comes to this as well. You could be receiving communication if you're trying to immigrate or something, or going to a retreat. You could be receiving communication of some kind of a delay or obstacle in the process there. Overall, this retrograde period is asking you to re-examine how you balance the micro and macro aspects of your life. Are your daily interactions, habits, and routines aligned with the bigger picture of your values and goals? And the opposition of Mercury and Jupiter here is inviting you to find harmony between communication and contemplation, ensuring your actions actually reflect your truth. It's also asking you to wonder how much of who you want to be you're actually actively living in this life, how much you're actually embodying your truth, and how much does your pursuit of curiosity affecting your actual execution of your goals. Juno and Atira's conjunction here is highlighting the importance of partnerships that support your sense of security and self-worth and your values and your long-term goals. This is also giving you a time to clarify any miscommunications that you've had with anyone, or miscommunications that people have had with you. So if you're not the one reaching out, they might be the one reaching out. Use this time to clarify what truly matters to you and how you can create a foundation that supports both connection and growth. This retrograde is really encouraging you to slow down and revisit past conversations and find clarity in areas where communication may have faltered. There's a call to integrate the small-scale details of your daily life with your broader ideas, spiritual beliefs, and long-term goals. Sagittarius' Archer energy combined with Gemini's intellectual curiosity is prompting reflection on how your connections align with your greater aspirations and your greater truths. Connections and communications. There's really for you right now a dynamic interplay between the messages you're sharing or receiving and the communications you're having and the larger narrative you're writing about your life. This aspect may bring someone into your orbit, especially with that Juno-Atira conjunction, someone who shares your life goals, spiritual outlook, or a vision of the future that aligns with yours. And Scorpio's transformative energy behind that is pushing you to evaluate whether your partnerships and shared responsibilities align with your long-term stability and long-term dreams. And there's an underscoring of the importance of those commitments tied to emotional security. Conversations about shared values, shared goals, shared spiritual outlooks or spiritual beliefs, or travels could deepen a connection or reveal areas for adjustment, and could show you areas that you didn't realize truly matter in terms of what you're looking for. You may receive a message from someone tied to your past who shared your life goals, shared a spiritual perspective, or had a similar vision for a future together that might unexpectedly appear, or that could be coming from your side to them, leading to a significant conversation or reconnection. You might have an epiphany about how your daily habits and routines either support or detract from your bigger aspirations, particularly in learning, travel, publishing, being your own boss, cultural experiences, etc. Let's see. You could have, we already talked about delays in communication, possible delays in travel plans, but that could force you to pause and reflect on what you truly value in your connections, your relationships, and in your life. You could find yourself revisiting a book, a belief, or a place that reconnects you with a sense of purpose about your clarity or future. Overall, it's really, even if you're going to be having mishaps and delays, remember that everything happens for a reason, and understanding the energies at plays and where it's activating in your chart helps you quickly understand the reason. There's really an importance here being highlighted of balancing the immediate with the expansive, and ensuring that your connections and communications actually align with your higher values and higher aspirations. So if you're the one to reach out, or if someone reaches out, or a meaningful message arrives, because remember, both Mercury and the third house represent receiving and giving messages, consider how it aligns with your spiritual beliefs and the broader life path you're navigating. A final note, Jupiter's influence here is encouraging bold yet thoughtful steps, while Juno and Atira's conjunction emphasizes that commitments rooted in shared values can pave the way for lasting growth and transformation. Scorpio, Mercury retrograding through your second house of finances, values, and self-worth brings an opportunity to reevaluate what you truly value in your life. This is happening from November 22nd to December 15th, 2024. If you haven't yet, I really recommend listening to the intro where I talk about this, the last retrograde of the year, how it's different, and the other themes that it will be having, and the predictions for the collective. And I also talk about the shadow period pre and post the actual retrograde period. So, by the way, second house also rules real estate, stocks, and investments. So this transit may bring financial hiccups, delays, or the resurfacing, it's a hard word when you're talking fast, or the resurfacing of past monetary decisions that need attention. It's also a powerful time to reflect on how your sense of self-worth influences your material world. I'll give you a little inside spiritual knowledge. So in most esoteric teachings around the world, net worth and money is actually tied with self-worth. And so you could be having, Mercury retrogrades. Mercury rules communication, travel, technology, intellectualization. Retrograde means kind of taking a step back, delays, obstacles, hiccups, and things being redirected and forcing you to revisit, reevaluate, reintegrate, etc. So the things that those hiccups, or very seemingly Mercury retrograde themes that are coming up, could be happening to be forcing you to re-examine that relationship. Now we also have the ruler of this retrograde, Jupiter, opposing the actual Mercury retrograde itself. So Jupiter is in direct opposition with Mercury, and that's happening from your 8th house of shared resources, transformation, and intimacy, meaning that there's a layer of tension between what you need for personal security and possibly what you're sharing with others in partnerships, both financially and emotionally, or some kind of a tension between your self-worth and some traumas you've gone through, or some kind of tension between like real estate, stock, your investment, your assets, and deeper levels of intimacy maybe, or some things you haven't processed. There's really so basically the energy right now is tugging on your axis. The 8th house, 2nd house axis is the axis of net worth, money, security, and values. Okay, so Yeah, you know, Germany's placement, I don't know why I said Germany, Jupiter's placement in Gemini. I think I combined Gemini and Jupiter, and in the end I got Germany. Jupiter, the ruling planet of Sagittarius, where we have Mercury, is currently transiting Gemini. That's what you have in your 8th house. And so that's opposing Mercury and Sagittarius in your 2nd house. And that's highlighting the need to bring clarity to the balance between your personal and shared resources. This opposition may spark deeper insights about what partnerships or investments actually align with your values and long-term goals. Jupiter's expansive energy could bring opportunities for growth in shared finances or intimacy, but not without that required revisiting, rethinking, introspection first. At the same time all of this is happening, we actually have Atira conjuncting Juno in your 1st house of identity and self and self-expression, and this underscores a transformative focus on personal commitments and how they actually align with your sense of self. I talk about this Juno-Atira conjunction in Scorpio more in the intro, and I have a whole video on Juno's ingressing or entering Scorpio and how it'll affect you personally when it comes to life partners, commitment, and marriage. I posted it right before this, so I recommend watching it. But tying this back into the fact that the day Mercury goes in retrograde, we have this aspect as well, this transit. This alignment is encouraging you to evaluate how much of your identity is shaped by your partnerships and whether those connections are either helping or hindering your growth. Scorpio's intensity fuels a desire for deeper authenticity in how you present yourself to the world and how you engage with others. Okay, so that's the overall energy forecast. Now let's blend the energies together and give you examples of the potential events or occurrences that might happen. You might receive a message or notification to do with finances, money, bills, loans, debts, making money as well, invoices, payments, things like that. Or financial discussions from the past may resurface, such as revisiting old debts, investments, or unresolved agreements. This could also include if you share financial burden with anyone, or if you provide for anyone, or if anyone provides for you. There could be some miscommunications and mishaps or tension happening there. Overall, whatever these are, these could lead to decisions that better align with your current values and financial state. A past business collaborator or a past partner or a past someone that used to provide for you financially or someone that you used to provide for financially may appear, offering a chance to renegotiate shared resources or rekindle a meaningful connection. You might uncover a hidden talent, skill, resource, or investment that redefines your sense of self-worth and offers new ways to create stability and make money. You may have intense self-reflection about your commitments, both financial and emotional, and this could lead to transformative decisions about what or who you're prioritizing. A significant realization may emerge about how shared resources, money, power dynamics, or intimacy in relationships is influencing your personal growth. An opportunity for collaboration or partnership tied to finances or investments or money could arise, though it may require careful consideration and negotiation. If you invest in stocks, or if you invest in real estate, or if you're buying some real estate for investment, or things like that, or if you work in finance, etc., you get the idea. You could be having what on the surface level looks like a hiccup or a step back. Maybe your stock suddenly drops. Maybe something goes wrong with your purchasing of the stocks or real estate. Maybe the paperwork for you to get your house or get the real estate you're purchasing goes wrong. Maybe something happens to your real estate agent. You get the idea. There could be some kind of a significant delay or a step back or an obstacle to do with investment stocks or real estate. But overall, this retrograde is inviting you to re-examine your relationship with money, security, self-worth, investment, and the 2nd and 8th house dynamic is highlighting a push-pull between independence and interdependence, how much you give versus what you receive, and use this time to clarify your values and align your partnerships and commitments accordingly. And with the Juno and Atira influence in your 1st house, there's an emphasis with authenticity and self-awareness, and that's essential in navigating these times. Remember, what you prioritize now lays the foundation for long-term stability and fulfillment. And if you have any mishaps just know that everything that's meant to be will happen, and allow yourself to flow through. And these mishaps aren't here to bring you down, but they're here actually to offer you an opportunity for growth. Hi Sagittarius, Sag suns, moons, and risings. Mercury is going retrograde in Sagittarius in your sign, which means it's in your first house. The house of I am, of self, I call it the house of I am, of self, of identity, of personal expression. Also rules your appearance as well. And the retrograde is happening from November 25th to December 15th, 2024. If you haven't, I highly recommend you listen to the intro. This is the last retrograde of the year, and I talk about what makes this retrograde different from the others, and as well as predictions for the collective and tips I recommend going into this retrograde. I also talk about the shadow periods, because you would have felt this energy before retrograde is starting, so you're definitely feeling it by now, or some themes are starting to pop up. And the shadow period continues after as well. You know, when Mercury retrogrades in the first house, Mercury is really about intellectualization, communication, technology, things like this. You're being asked to slow down and reconsider how you're showing up in the world in a way. This is a time to refine your communication style, reassess your goals, reflect on the way others perceive you, but also how you perceive yourself. With what's really interesting here too is the ruler of this retrograde. So Mercury is in Sagittarius, the ruler of which is Jupiter. Jupiter is actually directly right now transiting Gemini, and it's directly 180 degrees opposite from Mercury. This is a wow concept. Like, this is a pretty big deal, the fact that the ruler of Mercury is directly opposing Mercury, you know? And so that means that it's happening from your 7th house of relationships and partnerships. So Jupiter and Gemini directly opposing Mercury and Sagittarius from your 7th house to your 1st house, from your house of relationships and partnerships to your I am house, is adding a dual perspective to this retrograde. Maybe it's bringing clarity or issues on how your individual needs and self-expression are interacting with your closest connections, or are interacting with how you show up in a relationship. So while this retrograde is forcing you to focus on your personal identity and self-expression, partnerships and external feedback are providing a mirror to you and are helping you identify what's working and what isn't. But, you know, oppositions are tension-based aspects. So this tension can lead to breakthroughs in balancing independence and interdependence, but it may require navigating misunderstanding or differing expectations. This is really a time too, I think, like, there's going to be perhaps miscommunications or lessons or step backs or learnings or delays arising from some kind of an imbalance that you have in your life when it comes to independence versus dependence. For example, if you overly lean to one side, if you use independence and the I am as an excuse, as a protection mechanism, and if it's hindering your ability to exist happily in a relationship or to be with the right person that you're meant to be with, this is going to be a time where either hearing from, you know, Mercury rules communication, receiving communication, wanting to communicate, getting communication, or thoughts that are dropping in your head that are forcing you to reflect back, or some kind of mishaps and delays in communication. Basically, it'll be forcing you to say, okay, where am I out of balance here? Where am I maybe hyper independent that it's actually coming from weakness? Where can I fix it? Where can I bring independence and balance back into play? At the same day Mercury goes into retrograde, we have Juno, the asteroid of love, commitment, mainly the asteroid of actually marriage, commitment, and life partners, and Atira, the asteroid of destiny, in your 12th house of spirituality, subconscious patterns, mental health, and hidden truths. So this brings a karmic undertone to this retrograde. You can listen to my full video that's actually about Juno specifically in Scorpio, but here I'm just talking about the conjunction with Atira and the timing with the retrograde. So you may find yourself reflecting on past commitments or uncovering hidden motivations that have influenced your relationships, but also your relationship failures in the past. This placement really emphasizes deep emotional healing and understanding how unseen forces maybe shape your connections, and could be giving you a chance for a reconnection and fixing destiny, where maybe in the past an imbalance with the self and in a relationship, or an imbalance with independence and dependence occurred. So how potential events that could happen? You could start thinking of an ex-partner or slash ex-lover, ex-romantic interest basically, or they could be thinking of you and reach out, or you could be thinking of them and reach out, or both, where this happened, where maybe some kind of a unhealthy balance of dependence and independence occurred. You could be having revelations in your life and reflecting in your life, or be receiving feedback some way on how maybe in the past you ran away from being with someone, and maybe in the past you blamed it on them, but in fact it had to do with yourself in a fear of vulnerability, 7th house, yourself in a fear of what it means to be in a partnership, and you using your independence as a shield. Or if you're on the other end of the scale, you could be getting those same reflections and learnings or news that's prompting this, where you were anxiously attached or hyper-dependent, and what balancing that looks like. A partner or close connection might challenge you to reevaluate how your individual goals and needs align with shared commitments. This could be a time where you're feeling pulled to change something about your appearance, or you have maybe some kind of a setback regarding your appearance, like maybe you get your eyebrows done, or you decide to get a new haircut and completely change how you look, and it does not go the way you plan. I don't like to give fear advice, but what I will say is, if I was having a retrograde in the 1st house, it is Mercury, so it's not Venus. Venus rules looks, but still, I would maybe just if it's something really big, I would just be extra cautious with how I'm communicating the results of whatever that makeover aspect is. Because again, Mercury rules communication, technology, intellectualization. So retrograde is a step back, is a delay, is an obstacle, is things going wrong. So I would just make sure that if you're playing with your appearance or anything to do with the 1st house, then make sure that you're communicating things fully. Read the fine print, tell them, don't over-explain for sure. Don't assume people are understanding you. Old patterns of self-sabotage or subconscious beliefs about your worth in relationships may resurface for healing and resolution. An unexpected reconnection with someone from your past may offer you insight into how you've grown and what you truly want moving forward. You might start having lessons. You might start actually feeling lonely, being alone all the time. Sorry, I don't mean that in a bad way, but I mean, if you've had that imbalance of independence and dependence, because we have this retrograding in your 1st house, but the bow being released from the arrow is coming from your 2nd house of relationships, you could start to evaluate how relationships in the past have affected your current state where you are now, and what you really want, and how in alignment you actually are with what you want, and what needs to change to make that happen. You could feel drawn to spiritual practices or introspection, or hiring a therapist, or anything that helps you realign your sense of self with your deeper values and aspirations. A project or goal you've put on hold could reappear, offering you a chance to refine your approach and move forward with greater clarity. A sudden ally or mentor, or someone you look up to, or someone that gives you great advice, may step forward to support you, especially in navigating complex interpersonal dynamics. You could have, you could have some kind of argument, because Mercury is Mercury is miscommunication. So you could have some kind of arguments, miscommunication, misunderstanding within the span of, relationships, whether it's romantic or work or family or friends, that causes you to reflect a lot on yourself and puts a mirror at you and things like that. Your view of yourself, whether it's limiting beliefs or your view of yourself exactly, could somehow affect your relationships in some kind of delay, setback, or relationship. Delay or setback, or how you're carrying yourself, how you're carrying yourself into the world, and this can cause you to pause and reevaluate. Overall, this retrograde is asking you to take a closer look at how your identity is evolving and how your personal growth is impacting your relationships. The interplay between the 1st and the 7th house is highlighting the need to balance self-awareness with consideration for others. And remember, everything that happens for a reason. So just use this time to refine your growth journey and your vision for the future, while remaining open to feedback and support from others. Hello Capricorns, Capricorn suns, moons, and rising. Mercury retrograde is happening in your 12th house from November 25th to December 15th, 2024. It is the last Mercury retrograde of the year, and it is happening in the sign of Sagittarius. If you haven't yet, I highly recommend. I know I say this in every video, but that's because all my intros are jam-packed with very valuable information that could impact your retrograde, and tips with how to deal with it, and all the other aspects that make this one different. I also talk about the shadow period coming before and after, so highly recommend you listen to that. Also, I hope you're listening to your rising / ascendant sign, as well as your sun and moon. Theoretically, the rising sign, which is your ascendant, should be the most accurate of all the three forecasts, but I still recommend listening to all three to get an overall holistic overview. If you are a professional astrologer or a deep astrologer enthusiast and you are thinking, why would I listen to my sun and moon? The rising sign is the only one that makes sense. Actually, I can make a video about this, but listening to your sun and moon does help. It adds actually a different layer of understanding in the part of your life where these things unfold. Okay, so for you Capricorns, Mercury is retrograding in your 12th house where you have Sagittarius. This is the house of spirituality, hidden matters, secrets, introspection, endings, mental health. It's the house that also talks about connection with spirit. It's the house that also talks about us being our own worst enemy. And it's also the house that talks about sometimes idealism and rooting for the underdog. So overall, this is bringing a time of deep reflection and deep inner work. And when Mercury, which is the planet that rules communication, intellectualization, technology, etc., combines itself with with the energy of a retrograde. A retrograde is about looking back, revisiting delays, setbacks, obstacles, slowdowns, etc. Together happening for you in your 12th house, this may feel like a call to retreat and reassess patterns that no longer serve you. 12th house is also the house of isolation, so you actually might be feeling like literally retreating and maybe isolating it a little bit more. With Jupiter here in Gemini, which, by the way, Jupiter is the ruler of this retrograde because Jupiter rules Sagittarius, where Mercury is right now. So we have the ruler of this Mercury retrograde in Gemini exactly opposing Mercury itself. This is happening from your sixth house of work, health, and daily routines. And like health, it could include like fitness routine and actual health. So here, there's a dynamic interplay between your inner world and your external responsibilities and how they're tied together. Balancing these areas will require mindful adjustments, and that's kind of one of the lessons with any of the retrograde energy you get. That's what it's pushing you towards. So with that Jupiter 6th house influence, this is amplifying your focus on productivity and the desire to bring order to your daily life. Its direct opposition to Mercury in the 12th house is highlighting how subconscious beliefs or hidden patterns may be impacting your ability to function effectively. Additionally, and vice versa, it could also be highlighting how your daily routine, taking care of your health, your daily work life, your work-life balance, whether or not you're servicing others, is impacting your mental health, your spiritual connection, your higher ideals, and your subconscious beliefs. This transit is really encouraging healing and integration and servicing of something greater and balance between mental health, emotional health, spiritual health, and the practical healths, whether it's, work, fitness, etc. And it's encouraging healing when it comes to those habits or thought processes that undermine your progress. At the same time, we have the day Mercury goes into retrograde, Juno, the asteroid of marriage, commitment, and life partnership, is in direct conjunction, so it's touching Atira, the asteroid of destiny and purpose, happening in your 11th house of friendships, networks, and aspiration. I go into great detail about this Juno transit in the last video I posted and also in the intro. The last video will have your specific forecast. The intro will go on into Juno and Atira more. But here in this part, I'm just going to tie it to what this could mean when it's conjuncting Atira, the day that Mercury is going into retrograde for you. So this is bringing a faded quality to your social connections, to your dream revelations, and to potential partnerships during this retrograde. Collaborative opportunities or unresolved issues within your social circle may resurface, providing an opportunity to strengthen or redefine those bonds. So overall, those are all the different energies we have playing part in this retrograde and how this retrograde might play out. Let's mix them together and give you some more examples of the physical manifestations that you may see or you may experience during this time. There's an infinite number of ways really that we can translate these energies mixing together in events. These are just some examples. So, a friend or colleague could reappear, which could bring clarity about a past collaboration or unresolved dynamics. You might get a message or communication that triggers some mental health upheavals or a breakdown. You may experience vivid dreams or intuitive insights, 12th house rules dreams, that helps you uncover hidden truths about your relationships or your aspirations. An old workplace pattern or routine may resurface, urging you to address its impact on your emotional well-being. This includes things to do with your daily life, your health, and you can suddenly realize you could have a kind of emotional, mental breakthrough in how that could be positively or negatively impacting you. But likely it will come through maybe some kind of a delay or upheaval, and then that's how you make that positive learning after. A long-standing goal or community project or social network may come back into focus, offering you a chance to revisit and refine your approach. You could have miscommunications amongst your friends or social circle that could highlight the need for clear boundaries or expectations. You could have miscommunications in the workplace that really affects your mental health. A health scare could lead you to having a spiritual breakthrough or something like that. You could have a health scare that really impacts your mental health, but then it leads to something positive. Let's see. You could, through upheavals with your mental and emotional health, maybe you're isolating too much, maybe you feel like you're not servicing the world, maybe you feel you don't have a good spiritual connection. That could cause some kind of upheaval, like a Mercury retrograde energy of a delay, of obstacle, something like that. And you realize that something to do with your daily routine, your health routine, your work-life balance may hold the key to fixing it. A healing opportunity within your circle may arise, which allows you to reconnect with someone in a meaningful way. You could receive a communication or feel the need to reach out to someone that you used to work with or work in the same place, 6th house energy, or maybe even go to the same gym, because 6th house energy is also health, like we said. And this could somehow face your spiritual health, your spiritual connection. It could be tied to that, or your mental and emotional health. And this can give you an insight on how maybe that person can benefit you in that sense. This retrograde is an invitation to go within and examine how your inner world shapes your outer reality, if we had to sum it up. The tension between the 12th and 6th houses is encouraging you to balance introspection with action, ensuring that your daily habits and routines align with your deeper values. The influence of Juno and Atira in your 11th house is really emphasizing the importance of community, collaboration, and friendship and values being aligned, which will allow you to heal old wounds and build a stronger, more authentic soul tribe that will better improve your mental, spiritual, emotional health and your daily life and routines as well. Aquarius, suns, moons, and risings. Mercury is retrograding in the 11th house, your 11th house by that I mean, on November 25th to December 15th. I go more into this final Mercury retrograde of the year, what makes it special, what to prepare for, and collective predictions in the intro, so please listen to that. I also talk about the shadow period coming before and after. But overall, Mercury retrograding through your 11th house of friendships, social networks, community, future aspirations and dreams, and technology, by the way. 11th house rules technology. That, by the way, will also include things like crypto, etc., and social media. Well, I was going to add that crypto we can also look at that in the 2nd house. But anyway, that encourages the reevaluation of your connections and long-term goals. Misunderstandings or delays in group projects may arise. You could have issues with friendships, and all of this could offer you a chance to revisit your approach and refine your vision. With Jupiter, the ruler of this retrograde, opposing from your 5th house of creativity, romance, self-expression, kids, leadership, this retrograde asks you to strike a balance between group dynamics and personal fulfillment. The ruler of this retrograde is Jupiter, because the retrograde is happening in Sagittarius. Jupiter rules Sagittarius. What's interesting is Jupiter is in direct opposition with Mercury over here, so at a 180-degree opposition with Mercury with its own ruler. Wow, that's big. So Jupiter is currently transiting Gemini. Sorry, that was a loud breath. I've been talking for a while. Anyway, so Jupiter has been transiting Gemini, which is in your 5th house. Your 5th house, this is bringing a burst of energy to creative pursuits, romantic interests, and activities that bring you joy. Its opposition to Mercury in your 11th house could reveal tensions between your personal desires and the expectations of your social circle. This dynamic is encouraging you to align your creative and romantic goals with your broader aspirations and your network. At the same time this is happening, we also have Juno and Atira conjuncting in Scorpio, which is in your 10th house. I have a whole video talking about Juno, which is the asteroid of commitment and life partners and marriage. So listen to that. It was the last video I posted. But basically, when we bring in Atira here, the same day as Mercury goes into retrograde, this is happening in your 10th house of status, career, and public reputation and vocation. This is adding a kind of bringing a faded focus on your personal commitments at the time when you could be having mishaps with your network and your friends and your dreams. So this could signal a time where important decisions or revelations in your career path could lead to greater clarity about your goals. What are potential ways all these different energies together might manifest in terms of physical events in your life that happen during this retrograde? You might have a fight or miscommunication or like kind of a misunderstanding when it comes to a friend or the whole friend group, or you could be feeling very, very alienated or not belonging with your friends, or somehow like longing for a soul tribe, and that your current friends aren't that. There is some kind of like you get it here, like upheaval, delay, obstacle, step back, reevaluation when it comes to friendships, community, how you fit in with that, and how your sense of self, the balance between that and your sense of self. You could also like a dream, a lifelong dream you've had, a goal, a long-term goal you've had could face some kind of delay or a pause or an obstacle, like maybe you get a rejection for something. And the important thing here is if that happens, don't be discouraged. Either keep going and it's there to help you reevaluate what needs to change, or Sagittarius is also about keeping faith. So either you just need to keep the faith and keep going, or it's giving you a chance to reevaluate if something needs to be pivoted. A past romantic interest or creative collaboration, because we have the 5th house here, may re-enter your life. So Mercury is all about communication and intellectualization. So either you start thinking about a past love interest, or they start thinking about you, and one of you or both of you reach out, or you run into them, and somehow they might be tied, or they might affect your social network, your sense of community, your friendship, or your long-term goals. This could bring an opportunity to revisit unresolved feelings or projects. Maybe a hobby, a passion, connecting with your inner child, connecting with your sense of self, connecting with some kind of romance is holding a key to fixing this retrograde energy you're having when it comes to friends and belonging in community. An old professional contact or opportunity could resurface, which could offer a chance for you to reflect on your career trajectory. You may be inspired to recommit to a creative project or passion that aligns with your long-term vision or dream. 5th house energy is all about creating and doing and acting out and creativity, and connecting with your inner child. And 11th house has that energy also of long-term dreams. So that's why you might reignite that passion and actually start working towards it and be pushed towards it. Maybe something bad that happens with with some kind of feeling of your trajectory of where your dreams are headed or your belonging triggers you to reignite that passion, which fixes that in a way. You may have unexpected insights about your role within a group or community or friendship that helps you redefine your contribution and boundaries. A public recognition or opportunity may lead you to reconsider your approach to balancing professional and personal commitments. You could have, let's see, I think that about sums it up. So overall, this retrograde, whether it comes in the form of an argument with a friend or feeling isolated in your community or a delay in a dream or a project, is giving you a chance to reevaluate your social connections and aspirations, ensuring that they align with your authentic self-expression. The connection with Jupiter is reminding you to nurture joy and creativity and love in your life while staying true to your long-term goals. And there's like almost a tension here happening between your inner child and your sense of self and your passion, and somehow your community and your friendships and your belonging. But this is all happening to give you a chance to better align and better fix it. Hello Pisces, Pisces suns, moons, and risings. Mercury is going retrograde in Sagittarius from November 25th to December 15th, 2024. And this is happening in your 10th house, the house of career, reputation, your place in society, vocation, and long-term ambitions, and also to a certain extent, your leadership. And if you haven't listened to the intro, I highly recommend you listen to it, because I talk about this last retrograde of the year and Mercury retrograde of the year, and what is making it special, what to look out for. I go into detail with some of the aspects, and I also talk about predictions and the shadow period happening before the retrograde dates and after, where you'll see to a certain extent some of these themes and slowdowns. So with this Mercury retrograde through your 10th house, it's really a time that's inviting you to reassess your professional trajectory, your work, and your public image. This is the time to reflect on where you want to go forward, to learn from past mistakes, to revisit unfinished projects, to clarify your goals, and to really validate what you want going forward. Mercury is the planet that rules communication, technology, social media to a certain extent, because that's what happens when you combine them together. Messaging, receiving messages, giving messages, communication. Also rules travel to a certain extent, and did I say technology? Yes, I did. And there's one I'm missing. It's also how you intellectualize, and to a certain extent, intellectualization is how you view things, but also how you plan for things. And and writing, speaking, those are all parts of communicating. Can also rule to a certain extent, like tasks related to small business. And so when we have a retrograde is when the planet appears to go back. Basically, retrogrades will then bring delays, hiccups, pauses, stepping backs, obstacles, things going wrong, mishaps, things like this. So combining this all together, you could be seeing these kinds of things come when it comes to your career, your job, etc. Now, this is all happening while the ruler of this retrograde, Jupiter, is exactly opposing Mercury. That's wild, in Gemini. And Jupiter will be then sitting in your 4th house. 4th house is all about home, emotional foundations, family life. And so this is opposing, and an opposition is kind of a tense aspect. So this is bringing tension between your family, your emotional world, your emotional foundations, your home, both literally and figuratively. So whether it's what feels like home, your family, or who you live with, or your like apartment, if that's the case. Now it's bringing some tension between that and your career. So it's emphasizing the need for that to align with professional goals, and those to align with your inner sense of security and belonging. So this aspect can illuminate where adjustments are needed in order to achieve harmony between these private and public spheres. On the first day that Mercury goes retrograde, we also have Juno, the asteroid of marriage, life partnership, and commitment, conjuncting, so touching Atira, the asteroid of destiny and purpose. I have a whole video posted right before this that goes into a sign-by-sign forecast of Juno entering Scorpio. But for now, and listen to the intro in this video as well, I talk about this conjunction in Scorpio, tied with Mercury retrograde. But for now, I will just talk about what that looks like when we bring in Atira and we combine it with the fact that this is happening the first day Mercury goes retrograde, which is making it a significant energy playing part in this retrograde. So the conjunction of Juno and Atira in your 9th house, where you have Scorpio, is the house of higher learning, travel, philosophy, personal beliefs, spiritual beliefs, also writing and publishing. And when I say higher learning, this could be like academia, like higher institutions. By the way, it's also the house that rules astrology. But this could be signaling potential breakthroughs in your understanding of how commitment and purpose and spirituality play together. This energy could be inspiring you to explore new philosophies, to revisit travel plans and dreams, or to connect deeply with someone who shares your vision for the future. Now let's combine all of these energies that I forecasted together to list possible events and ways that these different energies will manifest in reality through events or happenings in the physical realm. Now there's an infinite number of ways that we can combine these for predictions. I'm going to give you a few to just show you, and to give you solid predictions, but also to show you examples of how these energies are combined, so you can reflect in your own life yourself as well and kind of see where this energy is coming from. So you could have had maybe something to do with relationships and datings and getting to know people that went wrong and got delayed, and then you realize that this had to do with you not listening to making sure you have a partner that aligns with your spiritual beliefs or your philosophical view of the world. This could also be conspiratorial beliefs or your view of how the world functions, government functions, etc. And also like lifestyle wants and beliefs, or even beliefs or wants to do with travel. And then it went down the drain, and then this kind of gave you a chance to reevaluate what really matters to you and staying true to yourself and making sure that from now on you're going to be with someone that makes you stay true to yourself. And then that further then pushed you to make those changes and kind of fueled your passions when it came to your careers, your ambitions, where you stand in society, and your vocation. You could have issues emerging from in career and work that feel like setbacks or delays, or man, this is just taking way too long, or why isn't this working, or why am I getting a delay, or oh no, I got another rejection, or oh no, this client didn't assign me, or I didn't get the job I applied for, etc. And throughout this time, you could be feeling pressure from your family or some kind of home element to be pushing things forward, and this could be making you more stressed out to progress in the way you want career-wise. A professional opportunity or project from the past may resurface, which gives you a chance to rework or complete it. You might reevaluate your work-life balance because you could be having issues with your career that is causing you to have a bad work-life balance, making you work so much or making you work so stressed where it's affecting your home life, your family life, or your emotional base, because 4th house is also your emotional base. And that could lead to adjustments in how you approach career and home responsibilities. Something that goes wrong in work or travel or education opportunities could cause you to unexpectedly go far away from your home or your house. A mentor or authority figure could re-enter your life and offer, this could also be a parent figure, and could offer valuable guidance for your next steps. You could have a significant discussion or miscommunication or tensions rising with a family member or home, and this could somehow impact your career, either in a bad way where the stress carries and it affects your work, or in a good way where it helps you clarify maybe your professional goals or how your personal values align with your professional goals, or what to do next, or if you need to repivot, etc. Sorry, I hope you don't hear that. I'm fixing the mic a little. You could have travel or education opportunities that are tied to your career that suddenly come into focus, especially those requiring reconnection with past connections or ideas. If your career is somehow tied to spirituality or writing or publishing or astrology, hello, I know I'm talking about myself, I told you astrology is accurate. You could have something that feels like a slowdown or a setback here. Mercury retrograde happening in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is all about keeping the faith and holding the high vision and going forward. So any kind of upheavals here, just remember to keep that going. And you know, Juno, like we said, is playing a part here. So a partner or romantic interest might encourage you to explore deeper shared aspirations or long-term goals involving travel, philosophy, or growth or career. You could not get along with your boss at this time, or you could have something like a work project go wrong, or something go wrong with work. Or if you're planning some big launch, you could have things that delay the launch, or just lots of like little technical issues or difficulties with things going wrong. Remember, Mercury retrograde is not telling you not to do something. It just means to be prepared for possible mishaps or delays or setbacks. But they all have workarounds, and everything happens for a reason to somehow propel you forward. Overall, this retrograde is a chance to refine your ambitions and to ensure they are grounded in both practical and emotional stability. Jupiter in the 4th house opposing Mercury here is reminding you to prioritize personal fulfillment and inner peace while still navigating your career. There's really a message and attention here when it comes to work-life balance, and when it comes to balancing your wants and needs of family with your wants and needs of career. The Juno Atira conjunction happening in your 9th house suggests that exploring new perspectives and aligning your commitment with who you actually are and your core beliefs will help guide you towards a more fulfilling future, and should clear your thoughts and help you understand that tension between maybe the family needs and pulls with the pulls of the career. I hope you've enjoyed this forecast. Remember, Mercury retrograde is nothing to freak out about. If this video was helpful for you, please like and subscribe or comment. It helps me so much, especially since this is a new channel, but also it helps me in knowing what you like, what you didn't like. And also I love hearing predictions that are very accurate or happening in your life right now. And don't forget that when I hit 30 subscribers, I'll be announcing 2 winners to win 2 free 60-minute giveaways for full astrology readings and natal charts or other chart deep dive with me. You can use it for relationship, location astrology, your own, money, love, whatever you want. And to enter, you have to subscribe and comment. Both of those have to happen to count as an entry. And any additional comment after that will count as an additional entry, which will increase your chance to win. Guys, we are so close, almost at 30 subscribers. So if you want a chance to win, now's your time to join. Thanks, and have an amazing end of November, Mercury retrograde season. Stay tuned for my next video coming up on the new moon. In the description box below, I will link the Juno forecast because Juno entered Scorpio, and I mentioned it a lot in this reading.